We recently reviewed Asus's top gaming phone, the ROG Phone 6 Pro. But now there's a new, supposedly better model in town, the ROG Phone 6D Ultimate, which brings a new cooling vent and a MediaTek chipset. So what does that mean for the gaming experience, and is it a noticeable improvement? I'm Will for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our ROG Phone 6D Ultimate review. Asus has arguably been the top dog of the mobile gaming scene for quite a while now, and today we have their ROG Phone 6D Ultimate. The D stands for the MediaTek Dimensity chipset. Until now, all of the ROG phones have been with Snapdragon silicon, and there's both an Ultimate model and a non-Ultimate one. When it comes to the design, the 6D Ultimate is pretty much the same as the ROG 6 Pro, which we reviewed a few months ago. The glass build is virtually identical, but in gray, and you again get the colorful OLED panel on the back that can display custom graphics. Another cool and useful feature is the ultrasonic shoulder triggers, which add an extra level of control to your games. What's new on the 6D Ultimate is a motorized air duct called the Aeroactive Portal. It consists of a thin vapor chamber with dissipation fins, which can raise up to expose an airway directly to the internal cooling system. Asus assures us that there are no durability concerns about this mechanism, as it employs the same tech they've used for the flip cameras on 3 generations of Zenphones. The portal should be good for at least 40,000 open and closed cycles, and in spite of it, the phone still has an IPX4 rating against water splashes. The new port isn't really meant to be open just by itself. It works in conjunction with the Aeroactive cooling fan. This allows access for that moving air to come in and cool things more efficiently, up to 9 times more efficiently according to Asus's claims. Luckily, you get the Aeroactive Cooler 6 in the box here. With the 6D non-Ultimate and the 6 Pro, it has to be purchased separately. We'll get into the thermals in a second, but first, let's touch upon the 6D Ultimate's chipset, a top-of-the-line MediaTek Dimensity 9000 Plus. With the high-performance X Mode Plus turned on, and the active cooling fan enabled, this is some of the best peak performance you can get on an Android phone, and games run as smooth as butter too. This is the first time we've seen anything other than Snapdragon silicon in an ROG phone, and in benchmarks the ROG Phone 6 Pro, with its Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, does have the edge when it comes to GPU scores. The differences are small though. Now for the thermals. When in the default dynamic mode, the 6D Ultimate does undergo some gradual thermal throttling, without sudden dips that could cause hiccups in-game. If you bump things up to the X mode for extra performance, the throttling is much heavier, and it's actually a lot more than what we experienced with the ROG Phone 6 Pro. This is without any cooling fan attached. With the cooling fan, you unlock the highest performance mode, X Mode Plus, and the fan plus Aeroactive Portal seem to make a big difference. The stability is great at a high level of sustained performance, though for some reason it still isn't quite as high as on the Snapdragon model. Just like other recent ROG phones, the 6D Ultimate has a large 6000 mAh battery. Battery life is solid here, with an endurance rating of 103 hours, though that is significantly less than the 119-hour rating of the ROG 6 Pro. Since the screen on times are almost identical, it seems that the higher standby power draw is to blame for this lower rating. At least the charging speed is consistent. You get the same support for 65-watt charging, and we were able to charge the phone from 0 to 78% in half an hour. Most of the other features of the 6D Ultimate are exactly the same as the ROG Phone 6 Pro. There's an advanced 6.78-inch AMOLED display on the front, with a 1080p resolution, Victus protection, and support for HDR10+ and 10-bit color. Plus, there's an adaptive 165Hz refresh rate. And for audio, you get both a traditional headphone jack and a pair of loud, front-facing stereo speakers. The interface is the same as well. It's a custom ROG UI on top of Android 12, and it provides a ton of options for your games and performance. You can tweak things to a level that you won't find with the competition. And the ROG Phone 6D Ultimate supports all of the same ROG accessories and peripherals as the 6 Pro, most of which are sold separately. We've covered all of these things in depth in our recent ROG Phone 6 Pro review, so if you'd like to find out even more about them, you can check out the link in the description. Finally, let's talk about the camera performance, which on these sorts of gaming devices takes a back seat to the rest of the package. On the back, there is a 50-megapixel main camera, a 13-megapixel ultra-wide cam, and a 5-megapixel macro cam, the same setup as the ROG 6 Pro, but there are some minor differences in processing due to the new chipset. The main cam's 12.5-megapixel photos are solid, with balanced color saturation, good contrast, and plenty of sharpness. The dynamic range isn't the widest, but it's okay. 13 megapixel photos from the ultra-wide cam hold up very well too. The level of detail is great for this sort of camera, sharpness is good, and the colors are a close match to those from the main cam. 5 megapixel close-ups from the macro cam are decent, but nothing special. Because the minimum focus distance is not very short, you can't get as close to the subject as you can with some other macros out there. In low light conditions, the 6D Ultimate can shoot okay photos with its main cam. These have a good amount of detail, but dynamic range is limited. There's a dedicated night mode that you can switch on, and while these shots take a few more seconds to capture, you get more detail, more sharpening, and less noise. The dynamic range is wider too. The ultra-wide cam struggles at night. Photos are dark, blurry, and noisy. There is support for night mode on this camera too, and the results are much improved. We are pretty pleased with the performance of the 12 megapixel selfie camera. It captures plenty of detail, and the skin texture looks nice with pleasant skin tones. The ROG Phone 6 Pro can record 8K video at up to 24 FPS, though this mode wasn't available in our pre-production unit. 4K from the main cam is great though, with a flagship level of detail, wide dynamic range, good contrast, and lively colors. 4K video from the ultra-wide has plenty of detail and also has lively colors. The contrast and dynamic range are decent too. The 6D Ultimate can apply electronic stabilization to any of its cameras at all resolutions. It works very well too, smoothing out both big and smaller bumps and shakes. So that's the ROG Phone 6D Ultimate. Just like its cousin, the ROG Phone 6 Pro, you get a flagship-grade device that's pretty much the best you can find on the mobile gaming market. When comparing the two phones though, I'm not sure that this one deserves the Ultimate title. They both go for about the same price when you factor in the price of the AeroActive cooler, but the 6 Pro has lower standby battery draw and slightly better GPU scores. And most importantly, with this Qualcomm silicon, it has better thermal performance, both with and without the fan, regardless of the fact that it doesn't have the new AeroActive portal. Still, if you can't find the 6 Pro in a store near you due to whatever reason, the 6D Ultimate is 95% as good and is well worth recommending. Thanks for watching guys, and see you on the next one.